Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto, Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We had a horrendous start. We had problems getting the connections out. We had problems doing everything, but forgive me, but we are here now. How's everybody doing? I trust everybody's doing just fine. Again, I apologize for the delay, but I couldn't help it. I had no idea what was happening with our communication over the networks, but we finally figured it out 6 minutes late. 6 minutes late, but you win some and you lose some. Anyway, while we get things started here, let me see if we got people into the chat yet. Oh, yeah, people are in fact in the chat. Since we were so late, I was wondering what was going on. All right, let me queue up a few things here that I need to get queued up. I think that one is going to be there. And I need one other cue. And that's going to be right for... Akinomoto. Let me go to interviews because that's one that I've got to do. All right, there we go. All right. Okay, I think I have everything loaded up. Welcome aboard. We have in the house Michael Rudnin from Brooklyn, New York. We have in the house Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. AVQ, I got you already. Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. Sold car for gas money says, meow, you are not on YouTube. I am now. Again, like I said, we had a whole lot of problems getting this stuff all together. All right, who else am I missing? Let's go to the Substack. Lisa Randall, welcome aboard. Nicolas Delucci, welcome aboard. Angie Decadence. I like that name, Decadence. Yeah, we are decadent. Patricia Komisky, welcome aboard. Joan, Steve Elson. All right, folks. Let's start with, I tell you what I want to start with. I continue to be very proud of our Kingwood Democrats, right? Actually, these are not Kingwood Democrats. These are Kingwood, indivisible Kingwood folks. Yesterday, I played some of what they had to say. Today, I want to play another piece from a couple others that I interviewed there. So let me go ahead and start us off playing that video so I can go clean up a few other things that I need to clean up as that video plays. Here we go. There we go. What's your name?
Christina.
And your name? I heard that you guys stayed out last week, but you're back in full vogue.
I was here last week, but we didn't go out. You know, it's dangerous, I think, to be only one person or very few people. I was at the corner protest on Tuesday, and someone pulled up, rolled down the window, gave me the finger, and I had a sign. On one side it said, "He's not a king," and on the other side it said, "Don't be his pawn." So when you pointed the finger at me, I just kind of pointed at "Don't be a pawn, don't be his pawn." And he said, "I could kill him," and pointed to a gun which was at his waist in his car.
You are kidding me.
We had a similar incident the week before last.
Well, tell me your incident.
My mom and me were here. Where we were over here. Well, he came first over here. And he had like an American flag suit that he must have put on, and he had a big size American flag that you put outside your house. And he kept waving it, and he had like a march going, like an American march song was going, and he kept going around and around and around. But finally, when we were leaving, we were right here, and he had a rifle in between his legs, and he flashed it at us.
You are kidding me.
Yeah.
And they want to say that it's progressives and liberals that are violent. They are the ones that are the radicals and always bringing the guns.
The boy was raised up in a conservative household.
Yes.
Yeah.
They probably see this as violent. This opposing their view is scary to them.
Right.
That's why they had to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air.
You know, you read about that. Jimmy Kimmel is off the air now. And, no, he has to sue. He has to sue. But anyway, look, thank you guys. What's your name?
Yeah.
Did the recent bad events, if you will, give you any second thoughts about maintaining the pressure in supporting our democracy?
No. There were also kids killed in a school that we got no press on. And it seemed like if something out of respect for all of them, not to come last week, but that's not going to change what we're doing.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that the same day that he got murdered, there was a shoot up at another high school in Colorado. And it made very little difference on the news. So the news media the mainstream news media is also complicit, won't you say?
I would say that's true.
Oh,
absolutely.
Now, as far as it's concerned, do you think the graphic nature that actually people saw will let them have second thoughts about thoughts and prayers for people for this same thing that occurs in classrooms, but not for one person, but for hundreds of students over the years? You think it'll make a difference?
No.
You don't think it's going to make a difference either?
No.
We've had photographs, pictures, videos before, like Newtown.
Right.
I mean, how much more heart-wrenching, and it seems like what we just made ourselves. And I think, sadly, any station, any kind of school goes into that section.
Right.
It's so prevalent that it doesn't make a blip anymore. And consequently, you don't hear anything about that high school shooting.
But somehow they want to make him a martyr.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
I mean, they're weaponizing his assassination.
My name is Jack.
I need to ask you something, though. How y'all doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. Let me see what you got.
How are you?
I am doing fine. I love that. Let's see what you got. United we stand. There you go. All right. Let me ask you something, because you all didn't come out last week. Because of what occurred with Charlie Kirk.
Right.
What are your thoughts that people have some feeling that the left has something to do with what occurred?
Oh, I think that's been that message has been perpetrated. That we are the group of violence, which couldn't be farther from the truth. All of us old hippies, everybody knows we are not violent people. We're peace-loving brown rice. We are not violent. And if you look at the real statistics, not the ones they've been presenting, you'll see. I think they're misrepresenting us. And it was a tragedy what happened to that young man. It shouldn't happen to anybody in this country. But it did not happen from the left, as we know. It happened from somebody who had been groomed from a very young age with different ideals.
Now, I've been saying for a long time that the backstory behind this is that apparently he developed a gay relationship. And my question to you is, do you think when these people start to see reality, and because they grew up in a certain type of a gun culture, that they think all solutions then is a gun?
Yes, I think that they're so, what's the word, desensitized.
Right.
What a gun can do. Even if they hunt and they see they kill an animal. I think you become very desensitized. My father was in the military. I grew up around guns. I also respect them. And most of us in Texas, most people everybody does. You carry guns. But you have to be responsible.
Right.
And what we don't want to take away people's guns. We just want a more stringent gun law. So people mentally ill people should have guns are secured in houses. The highest level of death among our children is gunshot wounds. No place else in the world is that statistic. I mean, we've not done a very good job of monitoring the weapons that we have loose in this country.
It turns out that shot, with the gruesomeness of what it represented, the blood, the destruction of the neck, that was visual on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter. Now, what's interesting is that left a material impact on people's mind. Don't you think if Americans saw that this is what happened to each one of those 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds in classrooms, don't you think that would eventually make a difference because they've seen it?
I don't know about that. I don't know, because people are so ingrained in this gun culture.
Right.
The guns that they're using for some of these incidents are not hunting guns, and how the automatic weapons, these high-powered weapons, these are horrific weapons, and they should only be used by military and police force, not by civilians, against other civilians. And like I said, it was a tragedy what happened. But the other side of this coin is he discussed violence. Violence was in his mantra. So it's very unfortunate. But
apparently one group, the group that this young man belonged to, this gamer, and I can't pronounce that.
Groiler, yeah.
They don't believe in it. There's sections now that are split off that Charlie was not right. Charlie was pushing the Epstein thing.
Right.
And that's why a lot of MAGAs were not so happy with Charlie right then. And so it's very interesting that this benefits our dictator-in-chief, that now this man who was really pushing it, he had a very strong base, and he was pushing for Epstein to be released. And now he's gone.
He's gone,
and now he's a martyr. And now all of this anger is turning back toward us, the liberals.
And the interesting thing is that the feud has been between Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes, two opposings within the right.
All of our countries.
Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Now, I want to bring, there's a TikTok that I ran across a couple of mornings ago, and I wanted to play it. You remember the time that I did the story on the farmers, right? And this guy was so good. I wanted to play it, but it was too long for me to play it the last time. I have the time to do it now. I want you to check out this TikTok. And don't forget, whenever I show these TikToks, I show the whole thing. So go ahead and give these guys a follow, because these are folks that are doing some good work out there. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Check this out.
Also, everybody says in the comments, Project 2025, didn't you read that? That's his platform.
Hey, Skylar, my name's Will Westmoreland, and I'm a farmer down in Southwest Missouri. And I just wanted to reach out to you and tell you that I am not an FAFO kind of guy. We probably disagree with each other on everything political, but there's a very specific reason why people are getting upset with you. And I wanted to explain that to you, if you'd be willing to listen to an older guy kind of walk you through the process. Now, I'm not an FAFO guy because I know what's going to happen to poor people, the elderly, children, single moms, and over 250 million people every night around the world that go to bed hungry if the American farmer and rancher is run out of business because of Trump's policies. And that's what I want to explain to you tonight, if you'll listen to me. I also wanted to let you know I sent you a private message. And if you ever want to get on the phone and you want to talk about the issues that Trump is forwarding that are bad for agriculture, I'd be willing to do that, and I'd be willing to listen to your arguments as well. I also want to let you know that I've been a political consultant for over 30 years. I want to be right up front about that. I do that in addition to farming. And I want you to know, a lot of younger people don't know, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, but more of an educational way. A lot of younger people don't know that right-wing talk radio and news, the pundits, the talking heads, and right-wing talk radio, et cetera, have been working for over 40 years to develop in rural people exactly the kinds of ideas that you have in your head, that all politicians are crooks, that they're all the same, that you can't trust traditional media, that anything you hear that comes out of Washington, D.C. or New York or the New York Times or CBS News, that it's all a lie. And they did this on purpose, and they started with Ronald Reagan. We used to have what's called a fairness doctrine in this country, where if you were a radio station or a television station and you were using the public airwaves to present a message, we had a fairness doctrine where you were required by law to share the other side of the story. And President Ronald Reagan, who was president when I was in high school and a little bit younger than that, had the fairness doctrine eliminated. He had it taken out of the books. And there was a specific reason for that. It was designed so that organizations like Fox News and right-wing talk radio could start spreading the lie that all mainstream media was bad. Now, this was during the time of Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather, all the other news heads that we had out there that were highly respected. But it was a strategy to make it so that the airwaves no longer had to present an unbiased case. And then these right-wing media sources like Rush Limbaugh and Fox News, et cetera, began pouring it on to rural America. You can't trust politicians. You can't trust the news. And what they did is they focused on destroying the trust in these institutions so that they could replace it with another institution. And they did that. They replaced it with Fox News. They replaced it with right-wing talk radio. And I can't tell you how many times when I was growing up, when I was your age, I'd walk into a job site or be on a farm and I would hear right-wing talk radio blaring on the radio all day long. And then after they had destroyed our faith in media institutions in rural America, they then turned their guns toward the government itself. And they began building in us a distrust of government organizations. And Skylar, here's the facts, okay? You can look this up on your own, but these are the facts. Rural America uses more welfare than the blue cities do. Rural America needs more help feeding our children. We need more help keeping our hospitals open. And guys like you and I, farmers out there that grow row crops or do agroforestry or raise cattle, we take welfare too. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because we can't control the cost of our inputs. We can't control the cost of what we sell our products for. We got to pay for shipping both ways, as Kennedy said. But the reality of the situation is they were able to instill in us the idea that the government money coming to us was okay and was a good thing, but the government money going everywhere else was a scam or a sham or communistic or socialistic, etc. So it reached a fever pitch finally where a lot of rural people, over 70% of rural farmers and ranchers, only believe the Fox Newses and the talk radio. And when they came to you and told you that Trump wasn't going to implement Project 2025 and that he didn't have anything to do with it, you believe that. And you're not alone. All I'm here to tell you is that you were lied to. I'm not asking you to admit you were wrong. I'm not telling you you effed around and found out, because I don't want to see you lose your farm. And if there's anything I can do to help you not lose your farm, I'd be happy to do it. But in the distrust that you built up for government over time, and due to the fact that you didn't think mainstream media was reliable anymore, and you began listening to the news sources that tried to convince you every day that Project 2025 was not a Trump deal, even though many, many people on his campaign worked for Project 2025, they put it together, they helped write it. There was an entire section on agriculture. And in that section on agriculture, they specifically say they're going to cut out programs like this. Then they're going to cut out crop insurance. And Donald Trump is on record, my friend. And Skylar, look this up. Don't take anything I'm telling you at face value. You look it up. That's the difference between me and a lot of people on here. Check what I've said. Make sure I'm not lying to you. But Donald Trump is on record saying that corporate farming is better than small family farms and ranches. And Skylar, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to corporatize agriculture. And I'm not talking about when you and I go out and put together an LLC so that we can get the tax benefits and the protections from liability that come with that. I'm talking about big ag corporations in Wall Street buying up family farms and ranches as they go out of business so that they can turn it into just another investment. In the last 10 years, we've broken every single record in regard to the number of farms and ranches being bought up by investment companies in the United States. And I'd be happy to share all of that data with you. But my friend, I think the worst thing that they did to us in rural America is they convinced us somehow to place the culture wars over our own well-being. And what do I mean by that? Brother, when I was young, you didn't care what anybody did in their bedroom. Gay, lesbian, trans, whatever. That was their life. And the only way the law changed was just to say that you can't discriminate against those people when you're hiring, and you can't commit acts of hate against them because they're different than you and I as heterosexual white men. That's all the law did. And Skylar, did you know that the Southern Baptist Convention, and I was a Southern Baptist for a long time, do you know that the Southern Baptist Convention had its own clauses in their charter that said that abortion was okay in the event that it saved the life of the mother or the child might be deformed? But it was political hacks in the religious Christian movement that came in and politicized the abortion topic in order to get folks like you and I in rural America to turn against it. So I'm not here to tell you FO, brother. I know how hard you work every day, and I know what you're trying to do for your family because I'm doing the same thing. And you may listen to what I have to say, and you may just think this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But I hope you'll listen to it with an open mind, and I hope you'll double check and research what I've told you. Because the truth of the matter is we've been lied to. So at this stage, I'm not even asking you to say you were wrong. I'm just asking you to admit that you were lied to. Trump was forwarding Project 2025. He just hired the guy to oversee cost and contracts in the federal government that wrote Project 2025. We were lied to, my friend. And nobody's going to judge you if you just admit that you were lied to and you made decisions based on the fact that you thought these contracts were going to be kept and that you were lied to. And then the next step is get involved with us to fight back. Doesn't make you a Democrat, doesn't make you a turncoat. It just means you see wrong when it occurs and you fight back against it. Anyway, I hope that makes sense and have a great day.
You know, when I heard this thing, I said, this guy as a farmer could speak to other farmers. And, but I want to pick up on something that he said that a lot of people haven't really pointed out. I don't know if you remember when Trump did the tariffs the last time, he had an aid package kind of ready for the farmers. And he probably did that because he was in his first term and he couldn't get these guys as enemies, right? But the one thing that his then agriculture secretary said is he pointed out verbally that the days of the small farms are probably over. And I don't believe that doesn't have to be, right? It doesn't have to be that the day. In fact, we want a whole lot of small farmers. We don't want a whole lot of big agribusiness. People may say it's more efficient in that you can make things a hell of a lot cheaper. Yeah, but when you make a hell of a lot things cheaper, you would think that price goes to the average person in the grocery store. But have you seen the grocery prices go down? No. The efficiency, the spoils from the efficiency in making things more efficient never go to the American people. It goes to the capitalists. In other words, they're able to make cheaper cars. Yeah, the car, you get a little break from having a cheaper car, but they get the spoils. They get to make foods cheaper. They get the spoils. Right now, we are paying a whole lot more for food. And guess who's not making extra money from that increased price in the foods? The farmers. You remember when eggs was $10 a dozen or $12 a dozen? Do you think that egg manufacturer, the person who actually made the eggs made any more money? No, they didn't. Most of those egg fields that you see out there, they're owned by corporations at a fixed cost to that farmer. And they increase prices on supply to those farmers, etc., as they build this. But when they throw the big price of the eggs, as you've pointed out, it's not the farmers that get it. It's not the cattle, the raising cattle that get it. It's the capitalists, the executives in these companies, the shareholders of these companies. But these farmers don't understand that, so they still keep voting against their own interests. When you have a secretary saying that, yes, agribusiness is probably going to be the future. When you hear that Donald Trump says he's collecting all these $1 billion in tariffs, but I have not heard him talk about any kind of subsidies for the farmers. You know why? Because that is the intent of the program. It's the intent. The intent is to throw these farmers into bankruptcy. And when they go into bankruptcy, the agribusiness come out and take their land at a cheaper price. Now, so that is what we're talking about. So what I had an interview today with a young man that's running for Senate in Texas. His name is James Talarico. And the first questions I asked James Talarico is he going to campaign differently than Democrats normally do? In other words, not just campaign in the cities and so forth. Or are you going to go into the rural areas? Because unlike what many of our right-wing brothers and sisters in the chat believe, I want economic success. I want economic success and access to economic success for everybody, whether you are urban, whether you are suburban, whether you are exurban, whether you are rural. I want everybody to do well. and the policies that those of us who are progressives want. When we talk about Medicare for all ensures that those rural hospitals are cared for, even though those rural hospitals will operate at a loss. I don't mind that a rural hospital operates at a loss because of the number of people that lives in rural areas, but I still want them to have good health care in rural areas. And I'm willing for us to subsidize that. Why? I want our farmers. I want a lot of farmers out there to have a good life. That's what I want. Okay. So right now, the cities have always carried the rural areas. The economic activity in this country occurs in cities. Okay. In other words, the big monies are made in cities. Is that right? Under my theory of economics, it's not right. Let me give an example. Under my theory of economics, the capitalists should not be making more money than the capitalists should not be making more money than the person who's making a product from the things they produce at all. In my humble opinion, the people who should be making the money are those who are actively producing the stuff. It's, the capitalist shouldn't be making more than the engineer who designs. The stockbroker shouldn't be making more than those people in the companies who are making things happen. They shouldn't. But as things are right now, that's what happens. The farmer is just considered an antiseptic slave. The commodities goes out there and they turn corn and soybean and all these things into commodities. And the people who make all the money on all these products that these guys make with their sweat, blood, and tears goes to the capitalists. That's how it works. But at the same time, Republicans and neoliberal Democrats have convinced these farmers that there's something magical about just pushing paper to push their products, and that they don't make the requisite amount of money that they have earned, and we live by that theology. So I asked Talarico. That was the first question I asked him. Are you going to campaign different than Democrats? Are you going to go out into these rural areas and tell these people the things that they should be hearing? Are you going to change the fallacy and the indoctrination that have them believe that they are unworthy? I want you to go ahead and play the Talarico. I'm going to play the Talarico right now. Is this Jerome Wald from the Democratic Party? Are you trying to hurry me up into playing the Talarico interview? I'll play it for you now. But you should be here for the whole hour, bro. No, I'm kidding. I'm playing with you, Wald. How you doing, buddy? How you doing? All right, here is James Talarico now. There we go. Today on Politics Done Right, we're joined by Texas State Representative James Talarico, a bold and visionary leader who has consistently fought for working families, public education, and the future of Texas. Known for standing up to extremist policies in the state legislature, Talarico is now stepping onto the national stage as a candidate for the U.S. Senate. His campaign represents a new generation of sensible leadership focused on expanding healthcare, protecting democracy, and ensuring economic justice for all Texans. This conversation will explore his vision, his fight against corporate influence, and his plan to deliver meaningful change to Washington. Welcome to Politics Done Right, Representative Talarico.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, look, I want to start in a place that most of your interviews likely will not start. Right now, as it turns out, one of the reasons Texas is so red in as much as it isn't a red state is mostly because of how the voting patterns of people in rural area. My contention is that we don't, in my opinion, Democrats don't spend the necessary time in these places to show why Democratic policies are better for them. What would you say to that?
I completely agree. And it's why I'm not running a typical campaign. Typical campaigns aren't going to cut it in Texas. I'm running an aggressive, unorthodox campaign that's going to go everywhere, talk to everyone, even places where you don't typically see a Democrat. And that means going to every corner of Texas. Just in the first week of this campaign for the U.S. Senate, I was in Round Rock, Texas. I was in San Antonio. I was in Fort Bend. I was in Houston. And then I wrapped up our first week in Deep Red, Longview, Texas, out in the eastern part of our state. And we had a packed auditorium with folks who showed up, some of them Democrats, some of them independents, and some of them curious Republicans who are really fed up with one-party rule in this state and tired of the corruption that they're seeing at every level of government. So that's the kind of campaign I'm going to run. I'm going to be in these small towns. I'm going to be in the rural communities, trying to earn people's trust, earn their respect, and ultimately earn their votes.
Now, as it turns out, one of the other issues that is a great thing to do in the rural areas. Now, in the urban areas, we believe there would be what we'll call voter suppression by using several tactics. What do you intend to do about that to ensure that the votes actually count and that everyone will get the vote apportioned to them?
Well, we're going to have to show up in overwhelming numbers, and it's why my campaign is going to be investing millions of dollars into an aggressive field program that will be reaching voters at their door, on their cell phones, in the mail, so that they have the information they need to know their rights and to be able to take ownership of this democracy at the ballot box. But we're also going to have to be on guard for shenanigans. So our campaign is going to work with other organizations to ensure that we have lawyers on the ground ready to defend people's rights at the ballot box.
Now, as it turns out, Texas has been paying into the Affordable Care Act fund or taxes since its inception. The first 3 years would have been free for all Texans and going thereafter 10%. We have left billions of dollars on the table. You have been in the legislature for a long time, I know, attempting to get this solved. Being in the Senate doesn't give you a whole lot of access to what they do in the legislature. Will you ensure that whatever bills get passed forces all people in any state to get what's deserving of them from the Affordable Care Act?
Absolutely. I believe healthcare is a right, not a privilege. I believe everyone deserves access to a doctor when they need one. And I think it benefits all of us when everyone is healthy and everyone has the healthcare they need. And so I'm going to be fighting for this in our nation's capital, just like I've been fighting for this in our state capital. It's an issue I care a lot about. I'm a type 1 diabetic who couldn't afford his insulin. And I recognize that people with diabetes across the state and across the country also can't afford their insulin. And so when I was in the state house, I passed a bill to cap insulin copays in Texas at $25 per prescription. That is exactly the kind of common sense policies that I'm going to take to the United States Senate so that we can guarantee health care for all Texans and all Americans.
Now, will you sign on to the Medicare for All bill or whatever bill that actually ensures that people get the health care that you call a right and that I believe is a right as well?
I think guaranteed health care has to be our goal. You know, I'm very open to how we get there. And there are lots of different ways that this can look and lots of different policies that can help achieve that goal. As you know, from my time in the legislature, I'm a policy wonk, and I like to dig into the details. And so, you know, before I see actual legislation and actual policies, I'm not going to comment on particular bills. But I do know that my goal is to make sure that guaranteed health care is available to every Texan and every American, and to ensure that no one in this country goes without health care just because they can't afford it.
Now, there are lots of jobs both here in Texas. I mean, we are likely still the leading state that produces wind energy. A lot of places were shut down in Maine and other areas, both for solar and wind energy. What are your plans to attempt at reinstituting that which Donald Trump has really taken out of circulation that has hurt not only blue states, but actually many a times red states?
Well, Texas has been a leader in oil and gas. I went to public schools funded by the oil and gas industry. That industry has built our state and built our economy. And it is critical going forward. Even as we grow these new renewable sources of energy, we still need oil and gas. And we have to adopt an all of the above approach as we move forward into the future. I just want to ensure that Texas remains a leader in energy in the 21st century and the 22nd century, and not just the 20th century. So we've got to double down on renewables. We've got to ensure that Texas stays a leader in wind and solar and batteries and geothermal. We've got to have an all of the above approach, and I'm never going to use my public office to pick and choose winners in the marketplace. I want Texas to grow its presence in all of these sectors so that we can stay the energy leader of the nation and of the world.
Now, you've called out billionaires quite often for their inordinate influence in Texas public schools and what they've tried to do. What will you do as a representative on the federal level to sort of mitigate what they've been trying here in Texas? In effect, what they have successfully done here in Texas.
Yeah, I've probably been the chief critic of some of these billionaire mega donors like Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks and Betsy DeVos and the folks who are trying to influence our state policy with their money. And I'm going to take that fight against corruption to our nation's capital if I'm elected as the next U.S. Senator from Texas.
Now, as far as corporate power and corruption, what's your stance on that?
Well, I'm the only member of the Texas legislature who hasn't ever taken a dime of corporate PAC money. I'm going to continue that policy as a candidate for U.S. Senate. I'm not going to be accepting corporate PAC donations in this race. This is going to be a people-powered campaign. And we've already seen in the first few weeks that thousands of Texans in almost every county in this state have donated $5, $10, $15 to power this movement. I hope that folks will join us. They can sign up on our website, jamestalarico.com, and they can join this effort to take power away from those billionaire mega donors and put it back into the hands of working people.
The last question I always ask everybody is, what would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Well, before I was a politician, I was a public school teacher. I taught middle school on the west side of San Antonio. I often say teaching middle school is the best preparation for politics. And if you want a leader who is both tough and compassionate, hiring a middle school teacher is a pretty good idea. And I'm going to be fighting for our teachers, our students, our parents, and our schools every day if I'm elected to the U.S. Senate.
Well, let me tell you, James, right up my alley. On all the things I preach, that the most important profession, bar none, is in fact teaching, because that's the ones that move knowledge forward. So I want to thank you so kindly for giving us this interview. Representative James Talarico's campaign for the U.S. Senate is more than just a political race. It's a movement to redefine what is possible for Texas and the nation by putting people before profit and democracy before extremism. His vision challenges the status quo and offers hope for a brighter future. We'll be watching closely as this campaign unfolds, and we encourage everyone to stay engaged, stay tuned, get informed, and take action to shape the future we deserve. Our Representative James Talarico, thank you so kindly for having spoken to Politics Done Right.
Thanks for having me.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends. Absolutely. So anyway, folks, I want to answer something that Jennifer said. Jennifer says, no disrespect. Didn't Beto blanket the state in the same manner? Yes, he did. And first of all, Jennifer, if you anytime you think you disagree with me, or if you disagree with me, you don't have to preface it with no disrespect. I think we have to have these discussions, and not only that, we have to learn from each other. So let me answer it this way. Texas used to be a democratic state. Texas used to be a working class state. We're the working class, solidly voted democratic. And with the use of racism, sexism, and all the other isms, the Republican Party used the carnality, specifically and mostly of white men, but of a certain percentage of white people in the aggregate, to make enough of these people believe that it was a what should I call it? That the Democratic Party is the party of those others, and that the Republican Party was the upstanding party of we, the white people. And deep inside of republicanism, not only in Texas but around the area, as opposed to seeing that we should operate collectively, they continue to work on these issues to polarize America between whites and the others. Okay? And that is how Texas and all over was transformed. There are a lot of documentaries made on how this was done. What I'm trying to say with your statement, Jennifer, is that one run from Beto is not enough. Even one run from Talarico is not enough. There is so much ground to recover. We have to first look at the financial interest. Any sociologist will tell you that financial interest is not enough, because those identity issues, the racist issues, the sexist issues, the homophobic issues, all those things are kind of ingrained in some people's minds that have to be worked with, right? But the thing that is immediate is the economic issue. And the economic sledgehammer that's about to hit our farmers, the economic hedge, hedge hammer that's going to hit the medical bills, the medical insurance of a lot of our rural brothers and sisters, the debts that going to hit because of the lack of hospitals as they see them disappear. When they see that, then it doesn't open the door for all, but it opens the door for enough for us to have a working majority. And then we build on that working majority. Sledgehammer. Thank you. What I said, hedgehammer? Hey, remember, I'm Panamanian by birth. So, there's still things that I kind of mess up when I say that. All right. Jennifer says, just concerned about the ability to make an impact. I support this message. Let me say, and you are absolutely right, Jennifer. You can't just talk about trying to earn. You notice what Talarico said, which is what I really loved. He said, I want to earn their respect. They should respect you already, because, again, the policies that we support are, in fact, the policies that will help them, right? But he said earn their support. In other words, I don't want to just tell them something and it works like that. I want to show them. And let me give some examples here, right? Talarico gave me one bad answer. And I didn't pursue it because I didn't want it used in an ad. Okay, the last time I pursued this for the guy running for what's his name's position right now, Ellis or whatever his name from South, where is it from Sugarland, they used it in an ad on him, and there I am asking him the question until I get him to come my way, and they used it on an ad that really hurt the guy. I remember when he called me and he said, Egberto, look at what you did with me on that ad. And so I didn't really follow up as hard as I really wanted to. And that was the Medicare for All question. I will say this categorically, as a matter of fact, as a statement of fact, that we don't even have to argue about. The math is absolute. And that is when I said, will you support Medicare for All, and stop going around the bush. He should have simply said, when I do the numbers, the answer should have been, I will take all Medicare and all other policies, add up the numbers, and whichever one will save America the most money, and whichever one would give America the health care for all, that's what I would support. I'm not looking for him to say, yes, I am going to support Medicare for all. I want him to objectively say that he's going to put all the options on the table, and whichever one saves the most money, whichever one ensures everybody for health care, that's what I will choose. And when he answers the question that way, you cannot create an ad that says, this guy is for Medicare for All, without us being able to sell Medicare for All. But he can go out and say, I said I will choose the most appropriate one. I didn't push it there because I asked the question in a manner that didn't generate the proper answer. I don't want to hold him to where the Republicans can put up an ad that says, look, Medicare for All costs more money. It's a lie. But until we sell it, and this is what I tell a lot of our progressives, right? They're like, well, if they're not going to do it the progressive way, to hell with it, to hell with the Democratic Party. I'm like, nope. We have to go out there. Look, they have spent millions of, not billions of dollars to push this, to push the bad conservative policies. They've spent billions of. That's why we have a few right wingers in our chat that are completely confused. They actually believe they're right. And the reason they believe they're right is that they have been sold something that was plausible, but they're wrong. And we can mathematically prove that they're wrong. But that's not how the conservatives work. They don't need to get to you mathematically. They get to you emotionally. And that is what we have to learn how to do as we push the math. And we have a lot of work to do. But while we have to that work to do, we have to do the least amount of damage. For those who didn't vote for Kamala because they thought Kamala was a neoliberal that was going to still support some of these neoliberal policies, do you think things would have been as bad as they are now? Of course not. People made a mistake. They screwed up. Now we have to dig out of what Donald Trump has done. Exactly. Cindy, you're absolutely right. But now we have to dig out. Trump has set us completely back. Those farmers that this man was talking to, 75% of them, if no subsidies are passed. Right now, Democrats are planning on holding out to give subsidies for the farmers, right? But if they don't get it, these farmers are going out of business. And agribusiness will buy their lands, and agribusiness will farm their lands. In fact, a lot of those farmers will be working for the businesses that buy them out on their own land. It's amazing. Cindy, what are you saying no about? I'm not sure what you're saying no about. So a lot of those farmers that are going to be bought out are going to be working their own lands for agribusiness. Think about that. Think about that. Think about that. I have look. Let me tell you, Cindy, they will continue to vote with the people that they'll continue to. I don't agree with the they shouldn't have to need subsidies, Cindy. But again, because of the way the capitalist system works, they use the farm goods as commodities, and they capitalize them when they capitalize them. And the people who make the profits are those who capitalize the corn, the bushel of corn, the bushel of rice, the bushel of soybean. It's an economics thing, the way capitalism works. Instead of the people who make the product getting the spoils, it's the people who sell the product that makes the spoils. It's the people who sell the products who win, not the people who create. That's capitalism. And that's what a lot of people have failed to understand. And we can change this slowly. And now, let me just go back on one thing, though, Cindy. We probably should have these kind of discussions. You don't change people from one day to the other. Yes, a lot of them will continue to vote Republican. A lot of them are voting on racial reasons, ethnic reasons, on religious reasons, even though it's a false religion. That's why it takes work to change these people. It didn't happen overnight for when they were changed one way. It will not happen overnight. It's a constant haul. We have to put the work in. We have to put the work in. And we have to have the doors slammed in our face. We have to be prepared for that. We have to be prepared to go into Timbuktu, Texas, with a banner that says this hospital is closing because of your candidate, and have some of the people come and say, no, you're lying. And talk to those who will sit and have a conversation with you. That's how change happens. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen on the dime. It's the person who has staying power. They didn't take back abortion rights away from women. It took them 40 years of a constant grind to take back abortion. But many times we progressives, we go into the rural areas, they cuss us out, and we leave and say, oh, they're dumb, and leave. We have to stay because they stayed. They stayed. And Jennifer, thank you for saying that, Jennifer. Personal testimonies matter. That is the reason I talk a lot about having been a sexist. That is the reason I talk a lot about having been a homophobe. My personal experience of being able to change from how I was reared. Jennifer, that is magic. Testimonies. This farmer that I played from TikTok, testimonies. That's what it's all about. Stories people can relate to. Got to get out of here. Anyway, before I get out, folks, please remember, please support the program however you can. There's a lot of work to do what we're doing, and we are going to continue doing what we have to do to make that change. So please go to politicsandright.com/ what is it? politicsandright.com/newsletter and support the program. Subscribe. And if you can subscribe, if you can become a paid subscriber, all my books, you see all those books that are scrolling on the screen, you will get to read free of charge. Please support us as best you can. politicsandright.com/newsletter is how, did I get it out there? Yeah. politicsandright.com/newsletter. politicsandright.com/newsletter is how we do it. And if you have the wherewithal to do so, become a paid subscriber. If you feel like you can, even become we have the more than paid subscribers to offer. But again, it's a lot to do this. Michael Renan says, Egberto, I hope you read this before you close out. The next time you talk about environmentalism, please ask a follow-up about coal-fired power plants, which is the leading cause of global warming. You're absolutely right about that. Now, I want to make a confession to everybody. When I am interviewing certain politicians, I've learned this the hard way. I am trying not to make the questions that I ask these politicians something that they can put in an ad against the politicians that I think are the ones we want. Because so I am very methodical in the way I ask the questions so that they can't take snippets and hurt the politician and the way they spin it. Not always successful, but that's why I'm trying. So in regards to the way I deal with the coal question, I'll ask it in a manner that doesn't hurt them with some of these people whose minds are not, well, like yours, Mr. Ratnan. Anyway, got to get out of here. Please support us, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Become a paid subscriber however you can. And I got to get out of here. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby, right? I am what? Out!
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.